Russia tonight reacting to President Trump's warning of military action against Syria. Russia reportedly moving 11 of its ships from their naval base in Tartus, Syria, out to sea. The U.S. Navy is also on the move. The USS Harry Truman Carrier Strike Group today departed Norfolk for a deployment to the Middle East and Europe. President Trump earlier in the day threatened Syria with a missile strike, blasting Russia for supporting the Assad regime's use of chemical weapons on its own people. He tweeted this: Russia vows to shoot down any and all missiles fired at Syria. Get ready, Russia, because they will be coming. Nice and new and smart. You shouldn't be partners with a gas-killing animal who kills his people and enjoys it. Joining us tonight to assess all of this, former Vice Chief of Staff of the U.S. Army, retired four-star General Jack Keane, Fox Business Senior Strategic Analyst. Great to have you here, General. First, what do you make of the deployment of those 11 Russian ships from Tartus, Syria?
Well, first of all, as we're painfully aware of, ships in a fixed port like that are vulnerable. We found that out during Pearl Harbor.
Right.
So any good seaman, if they know an attack is imminent, it wants those ships at sea. Now, the other question is, are they really going to take action against a U.S. strike or an allied strike into Syria? I suspect not, and here's why. Russia and the Iranians have propped up the Assad regime successfully. An Alawite stooge or dictator can stay in power there indefinitely. It may not be Assad because he could be a political liability to them, but they have achieved what they wanted, and they're just consolidating those gains inside Syria. That's what the chemical weapon use was about. So if they take on the United States over our response to a chemical weapons attack, that puts at risk all of those gains because it pulls the United States in to Syria in a way dealing with the two people who have propped up the Assad regime, Iran and Russia. So I think they would never make that strategic mistake because they don't want to give up what they have paid a price to gain.
How consolidated is NATO and at least the early coalition that is built around striking at Syria, that is France and the UK. Theresa May, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, saying she needs more time to assess whether or not Russia was responsible for the use of chemical weapons. It's an extraordinary posture for her to have taken at this point. Your thoughts?
Well, if you recall, the last time that we were thinking about conducting a strike during the Obama administration, Britain did not go along with it. So, and Theresa May has huge political issues inside her own country. So I'm not surprised, by her caution here. I am surprised by the fact that we're still struggling over the intelligence itself. I was led to believe a couple of days ago that it was pretty solid in terms of what we had, and it certainly indicates that, given the remarks that our president has been making,
right,
for this entire week.
Right.
It would be hard to believe he'd be making comments like that if somebody didn't tell him that all of our preliminary indications are that this indeed was a chemical nerve agent.
Yeah, there's a strange hesitation here now, because there has been so much public discussion about this, not only here, but also, of course, in Europe. And now it seems to be, if you will, a bit vague. Now, that may be intentionally so that there is an element of surprise whenever the United States does take action if the president decides that's exactly what he is to do. Your thinking on that? I
think what's really going on, Lou, is we're just bringing our assets into position. I think that's they don't want to talk about that,
right,
because that begins to reveal your hand. Where are they and how many days off from the actual strike? But I think that's truly what is happening. It's positioning all of our assets that are going to participate in this operation, and also those of our allies who have the proper capability to participate.
Should there be concern at this point about the new alliance that has been created, the axis, if you will, in the Middle East among Turkey, Iran, and Russia?
Oh, absolutely. And I don't think we have a coherent strategy dealing with that in this administration or dealing with Syria. I think The new national security advisor is probably going to take that on pretty strongly to make certain, that we do give the president the right options in how to deal with this long term. Right. But clearly, what President Trump said a year ago last summer, he went to Riyadh. 55 leaders were there from the entire region, and he stood up in front of them in so many words, said to them, "I stand with you against our strategic enemy in the region, which is Iran." And I think as this axis, as you described, continues to grow, I believe one of the things that we should be doing is formalizing an alliance in the Middle East, kind of like an Arab NATO, a political and military alliance to counter the aggression and the malign behavior that's taken place.
The idea of creating a countervailing organization of states led by the United States against Russia, and the region dividing up along the lines that actually they've been operating under for decades. It's sort of recognition of who the enemy is and what has to be done. General, as always, we appreciate your insight and the tutorial.
Yeah, good talking to you.
Thank you. General Jack Keane.